Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Diamond if you are new here, and on this channel we show everything from fashion, beauty, lifestyle, and travel. So today's video I will be doing another gym talk. I just felt compelled to make another one of these type of videos because while I'm on my spiritual journey, I just wanted to be able to share my experience thus far and what I've learned to be able to help other people, because why keep that information to yourself when you never know if someone else may need it as well. So I wanted to be able to share some tools on what helped me throughout my spiritual journey and learn how to navigate when tough times hit, or just when negative thoughts come into your mind. It's just like a dark cloud over you. You just feel really heavy. So the first step, what I've learned, was to learn what mindfulness is. We all know that the mind can be a gift and a curse at the same time. It can lift us up and tear us down. And I think in those instances, you have to learn to separate the mind into two. When those negative thoughts come into play, you have to take a step back and just think to yourself, like, those thoughts aren't me. As my pastor would say, that's an anti-you thought. God would not create me for me to tear myself down. In that instance, you have to think that that's an outside source that's trying to get into your mind. Something also that negative thoughts can turn into is those self-limiting behaviors. So the I can't, or they won't like me, or they won't like my work, I won't be good enough at it. Self-limiting, or as I just learned the term, imposter syndrome. You have to remember that the enemy doesn't want you to prosper, especially if it's something that's meant for you. He will definitely try to stop you continuing onto your path. And that's something that I'm still working on my personal journey myself, is overcoming that imposter syndrome. But I feel myself little by little like pushing through that false notion. But mindfulness is recognizing the thoughts that are not you and setting your mind above those negative thoughts. My favorite scripture, and I come across this scripture a lot just with some sermons that I do watch, which is Romans 12:2. Don't conform to this world, but transform it by the renewing of your mind. And emphasis on the renewing of your mind part. You have to actively just read, watch, and just use tools to learn how to navigate throughout life. And I think that's the beauty of what I've learned from or through the Bible, is that the basis of the problems that we face have already been dealt with or have been talked about in the Bible as well. I will say in the beginning of my spiritual journey, it was very hard to read the Bible because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the language. Also, the Bible comes in different versions, and I think at the time maybe I was reading the King James version, and that was like the really old, like how they used to just talk in the olden days, the hear ye's and thous, and yeah. Now when I read the Bible, I read the New International Version because that's just the best way I can understand it in English. But throughout my spiritual journey, I began to find different sermons that spoke to me. Well, I would find those sermons online, and that's how I really began to find the pastors that I follow now. From those sermons that I found and the way that the pastors kind of explained or how they taught their sermons, they would kind of translate what was going on in the Bible and compare it to real world problems that I would understand. And I think sometimes that's the point that people miss about church. I don't think that you should count out not going to church or reading the Bible just because you may not understand. It's definitely about finding the right church home for you. I've been doing online church really throughout the majority of my spiritual journey. Those pastors is the ones that I connected with the most. I did go to physical church when I was younger, or previously before I really set on my journey, and also throughout the beginning of my journey as well. But I just found that the pastors that I found online were more suitable for me. But I do want to mention a couple pastors that helped me along my spiritual journey and just taught me about mindfulness. First beginning with Pastor Toure Roberts. The second would be Mike Todd. And these two pastors specifically, what I really enjoy about them is that they aren't so serious, stale, and boring in their sermons. They joke around a lot, especially Mike Todd. Like, he's like really crazy funny. Like, some of the stuff he say, I'd be like, oh, pastor's really saying that. But yeah, he's just awesome. And also with Mike Todd and Toure Roberts, like how I was saying earlier, that you have to find like a church home or a specific pastor who really helps you understand the Bible. And I feel that those two people like actually really help me understand, and just relating those stories, those real world problems of the things that were spoken in the Bible, translating those two together. And I'm just really grateful for them because they really helped me understand a lot throughout my spiritual journey. Another person I wanted to mention is Heather Lindsay. I remember at the beginning of my spiritual journey, she had a lot of sermons based around just negative thinking and how to counteract that. And then also lastly, I would say Stephen Furtick. He is a very good spiritual teacher as well. Last person I wanted to mention, she's a YouTuber, but some of her videos I've watched in the past were surrounding that of just manifestation and affirmations. And her name is Leora Alexander. She is just a really positive, bubbly spirit, and I really enjoy watching her videos as well. And she talks about other topics as well too, like meditation and just other areas of spirituality as well. And I'm also going to link in the description box down below some of the sermons that I did watch in the past, where it relates to mindfulness or just gives a really powerful message. So I'll definitely encourage you guys to go ahead and check out those messages as well. So switching gears, I'm going to be talking about some books that have also helped me throughout my life journey. The first book I want to talk about is The Power of a Praying Woman. So this was the first book literally along my spiritual journey. Well, kind of before it, where I was kind of in that negative state. And this was before like I really turned to God. So basically in that book, it was just stating all of the negative feelings that I was feeling at the time. And what I learned now about that situation is that was kind of God's way of pulling on my heartstrings, trying to get me to restart that relationship and grow in that relationship with him. But this book just basically delved into the importance of prayer. And also with prayer, having that faith to also trust God and knowing that he can change your situation. Because the biggest thing that I learned about changing your situation is that also you have to want that change for yourself. And actively, again, setting your mind to a higher place. I don't believe that we have to stay in dark places forever. I just feel that we are not programmed to be that way. God is light, and we are a product of God. And again, it's about being mindful of what you tell yourself in the story that you rehearse. But I will say that, you know, it does get tough, and just battling negative thoughts, I feel like, yes, those times are gonna come throughout your life, but you have to kind of be ready for battle to counteract that and get through yourself and not stay in these certain stuck periods. But again, you have to remember that also that those thoughts are not you. Another good book that I read was called The Magic, but this book was the second installment to The Secret books. And as you all know, The Secret is a book that talks about law of attraction and manifestation. And when I first read The Secret, I kind of read it at a time in my life where I really wasn't ready to apply. But what I can say is that that book did expose me to what the power of the tongue is. So basically what this book was centered around speaking into existence the changes that you do want to see in your life, whether that be prosperity, wealth, wisdom, happiness, or fulfillment. The power of the tongue is something that is real. What I have learned is that this was a topic that has already been spoken about in the Bible. So the scripture that I am referring to would be from Proverbs chapter 18 verses 21, where it reads, "The tongue has power of life and death. And that is literally so true. It literally just goes back about what I've talked about earlier in this video as well. It's about what you tell yourself in the story that you rehearse. Now, the next book I'm gonna talk about is another self-help book, and this book was called The 4 Agreements. The basis of this book deals with 4 practices and how you can implement them into everyday life, and to break the chains of old patterns of thinking or self-limiting behaviors and live on a path to freedom, happiness, and love. So I'm just gonna summarize the 4 agreements which the book talks about. And the first one would be impeccable with your word, meaning speak with integrity and don't use words that speak against yourself. Don't take anything personally or what negative things people may say about you, because ultimately that is a projection of their own reality. The third one is don't make assumptions, because you never know if you won't try. And the 4th agreement would be to always do your best or just be persistent towards your goals. What persistency just means to me is just to keep going, even if, you know, regardless of what your mind tells you, regardless if no one's supporting you, just regardless of what the numbers look like. If it's something that you want, just keep pushing towards that goal and you will definitely start to see the change that you want. And with persistency, that is something that I'm still actively learning to work through, especially with just my YouTube and just building my Instagram, and to ultimately build into the career that I want. Just keep pushing it through towards my goals, you know, no matter if I don't see any change in it yet, or the change that I at least want to see. But I've just learned that with YouTubers that I've watched grow into the places that they are now, or if you hear in an interview with like an artist or celebrity, with entrepreneurs or businesses, they definitely mention something either in the realms of persistency or just being consistent. Yes, definitely just keep going even when you don't want to or you don't feel like it, because in my head, when I get to that point where it's just like, okay, I'm just like, this is not working for me, like I still just push through. And there's been many times with YouTube, I'm just keep going no matter what the numbers look like, because I know the content and the quality that I put out, and I know the value that I can bring to people. And also the number one thing too about change is that, or if you want to work towards something, is that you have to start. And I think I've found that so many times, like it's like I wanted to see my situation change, but it's like I didn't even start, or I didn't even put no effort towards it to see my situation change. So that's definitely a big thing. Just with the same patterns, just doing the same things over and over again and expecting a change, it's just not. So yes, so definitely just starting and then just continue on throughout the whatever obstacles, whatever negative thoughts that come in your head, just keep going and you'll definitely start to see that change in your life. So the last book that I want to talk about is called Think and Grow Rich, and I really enjoyed this book. This book helps you think outside of the ways the world has taught us to live. I feel that I've never wanted to do things in a traditional sense, especially when it comes to work. And I am an advocate for there is just more life to live than working a 40-hour work week, especially in the climate that we are in now. Just with everything with the pandemic has showed us that life is just so short. And I just feel like it's too short to be running a rat race, especially when there's people out there who make an average American salary within a month's time frame, shoot, even in a day's time frame. And also too, when I feel just about like these big corporations or just with employers, is that you can be easily replaceable for the next person. And it's so funny too, because I was watching an episode of 911 just last night, and the one episode, this guy, he was like getting revenge. Not saying that it was right, but the guy, he was basically getting revenge. Like he wanted to just basically kind of blow up the building because they fired him after putting in 20 years of work just off the rip. But just in that scenario of how you can put in so much time to a company and they can just decide, oh, you're replaceable. But this book just really just dives into shifting your mind to think prosperous, achieve success, and grow in wisdom. As I'm just reading the pages of the book, I'm just like, wow, like that's literally the mindset I have. Like, yep, that's exactly the way I think. And you know, just with reading that book and just the person that I am, like I just know that I will live a financially free life, and that's what I'm actively built towards. But also too, I feel like people with that same mindset will come across this book and find this book, especially if you're like wanting to be just an entrepreneur, or if you're like a businessman, a millionaire, billionaires. They've definitely probably have read this book. So all in all, one common denominator that I found with these books is that it's all about your mindset. If you aren't consistently renewing your mind and thinking the highest thoughts, it can seriously be very detrimental. When you think the highest thoughts, ultimately it's leading you to growth and is leading you to become the highest version of yourself. As I grow in my faith and throughout life, there are so many things to unlearn and relearn from what was taught to us. So with that, I'm going to stop here today, and I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. Let me know in the comments down below if you're going to check out any of the books or the people that I discussed today, or also to let me know if you already are aware, or you already have read them before and seen these pastors too. But ultimately, I do hope that these tools do help you grow in your life and in your journey as well. And also to list down below some books that you guys have read in the past in the realms of self-help, spiritual based, or just wealth and business that could be worth checking out. And also, if you haven't seen my previous gym talk, I'm also going to link that in the description box as well, so go ahead and go check that out too. But I just want to thank you guys again for checking out this video and taking the time out to listen. And please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you guys in my next one.